Overall, hey, we did enough to beat a Boilermaker team that now falls to 2-6. And we get our first Big Ten win of the year. I didn't think we'd be saying it this late in the year, but it was no guarantee that we were even going to do it. So, you take what you can. Ethan had himself a great game. He looked like a monster throwing the football, particularly in the second half. And shout out Antoine Raymond, but shout out KJ Duff. Second most receiving yards in a game for Rutgers with 241. I will have to see who exactly he trailed. I think they had 268, which is absurd. Do you know off the top of your head who it was?
I'm not sure. I think it was 279. I think you're talking about Ethan, how many yards he threw for?
No, the most receiving yards in a game because KJ had the second most.
I don't know if he eclipsed it, but I thought he was around 270 something.
Yeah, I think so too. But I will see in just a second. And shout out to Jay Patel too for not letting his missed field goal in the first half decide how he was going to perform in this game. Yes, that was a chip shot to tie the game, and it was a chip shot to win the game. But with Rutgers and with how we performed on special teams, it was no guarantee. So I'm still happy with him making those kicks, regardless, even if they are expected.
Yeah. I think, my first impressions from this game, a couple of general thoughts. We did even up our record of 4-4, and we remain bowl eligible, of course, and the path to a sixth win is much more realistic now. Given the games that we have coming up, we're going to have to beat Maryland. We're going to have to beat Maryland and either Penn State or Illinois in Champaign. But at least it's possible. So the season is not wasted. There's still something to play for. Number two, I thought there were some positives today. Ethan had a fantastic game. As you said, KJ Duff was great. One of the best performances in years for Rutgers wide receiver. And I thought the running game was very good with Antoine Raymond and Jashawn Benjamin.
Yes.
And so there's and the fact that they were down 10-0, came back, won it in the fourth quarter. There's positives to take out of this. And look, Kelly Zinn was there. So the AD flying to West Lafayette tells me she's monitoring this program. This was a must-needed win, not just for Rutgers, but for Coach Schiano. Now, Having said all that, and of course they did play hard, but Purdue is not a good team. And I thought that we gave them way too many opportunities and failed to take advantage of opportunities that we had. But I think for me, this game shows one thing with clarity, where really Rutgers is in the Big Ten. Okay, we know they're not on the level of the Oregons and the Ohio States yet. And I think when you look at the games against Washington, against Iowa, against Minnesota, still not there yet. But we're not at the bottom of the Big Ten either with the Purdues of the world. So,
we kind of played like it a little bit today.
We're kind of mediocre is what I'm saying. And it shows you, if you look at the pattern of the games this year, the blowout against Oregon, the pretty similar close losses to middle-of-the-road Big Ten teams. I mean, sure, we beat Purdue in a close one in West Lafayette, but while there's positives to take away, the ultimate state of the Rutgers program right now, in my opinion, is not in a great place.
Oh, and by the way, it was Tequan Underwood who had the most receiving yards in the game against Buffalo, and that was with 248 in 2007. And so that means that Duff was only 7 yards away from having the most receiving yards in a game in Rutgers history.
Right.
I've been saying it for weeks, man. Ian Strong has had the most catches. Ben Black has had the best flashes of brilliance, or has had flashes of brilliance. DT has put up consistent numbers, but to me, it has been KJ Duff who has had the biggest catches, the most important catches, and the most impressive catches all year. And the fact that he's only a sophomore, it means that barring a transfer, he's going to be here next year and the year to follow too, unless he declares, which you expect a player like him to be not necessarily out of the NFL draft. You think that he'll get called up. His name will get approached to the podium, just like with Ian Strong. So, I mean, when it comes to that receiving core, the high school teammates of Duff and Strong, I'm just happy that they're back to where they have been for most of the year besides Oregon and, Washington too, to a degree.
Yeah, I mean, KJ Duff is someone who has a strong possibility of playing on Sundays, and the same goes for Ian Strong. Now, there's a few things I saw today, though, that, were troubling. First, the defense did play better in the middle portion of the game, but there were 3 plays, I think 2 in the first quarter, 1 in the third, late third, where the receivers were wide open, and there was nobody in the state of Indiana from Rutgers around these receivers. And those kind of breakdowns are really problematic. The second thing I think we need to keep in mind is that with 1:06 left, Purdue has the ball, 1st and 10, and could go ahead and kick the game-winning field goal. But the quarterback for Purdue, I don't know what he was thinking, not only gets the pass batted down, but catches it and then fumbles it. So I kind of feel like Purdue lost the game more than we won it. But it kind of goes back to what I said. This, while good that we're even and still in contention for a bowl, that shouldn't be the standard at Rutgers. It should be, getting to the playoff and beyond. And I think what this game showed relative to our performances in the other games is that we're kind of in the bottom tier of the Big Ten right now. Definitely need to improve, but at least we got to win today, right?
Yeah, we got to win. And, you're taught as a quarterback when the ball goes in the air to just bat it down to avoid stuff like that. But more importantly, to avoid a interception. And, whether, it wasn't an interception, but it was still a turnover. So I think that Rutgers defense did step up after like the first quarter, because after we allowed 10 points, specifically the 4-play drive to a quick touchdown for Purdue, and then coming out of the second half too, they punted the ball like 6 times, turned the ball over at the end in a crucial moment, and set us up for good field position. And this offense in the second half, it just looked like a breath of fresh life compared to last week. I know that it's a difference of opponents, but Athan was throwing up Hail Marys all game, and he was putting them where they needed to be. Now, DT did drop the ball once. It wasn't a perfect throw, but it was still a catchable ball that you expect a guy like DT to be able to haul in. There were other instances too, but for the most part, Athan was hitting these guys on the chest perfectly, and it was vertical routes every time. You can't really rely on that necessarily against an Ohio State, against an Illinois, even a Maryland. So it'll be an interesting closeout to the year. But I really think that the difference in this game versus the other games, we adjusted at halftime. For the first time all year, we adjusted at halftime. And instead of trying to be cute with the ball, feed it to Antoine every time, we tried some risky plays and it paid off. Now, will we be able to adjust against better teams moving forward? That remains to be seen. But for the first time all year, I'm celebrating the fact that we finally adjusted at halftime, which is something we never did until this game.
I think you make a good point. And there's certainly things to be positive about in the game. But, I don't mean to sound negative, but when I look at the overall state of the program, today for me, despite having a victory, kind of confirmed that we're actually in a worse place than we were last year and not going in the right direction. Because, like I said, I kind of felt like Purdue lost that game, particularly, of course, with 1:06 left. And I also just felt like there were really bright spots for Rutgers, Athan, KJ, of course, and the defense in spots. But I felt like if this was any other team, it would have resulted in a loss. And that's why what I saw today was not necessarily an incredible amount of improvement. I saw the people that are really good on our team play to their standard. But, I think what sums it up for me, Gabe, was at the end of the game, when Coach Schiano was celebrating like he had won the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that was kind of funny, wasn't it?
I'm thinking, this is not our program. We are not jumping up and down when we win against Purdue after the quarterback got the ball batted down and fumbled.
It was just such a relief for Schiano, because honestly, he was coaching for his job. I've said it all week that if we lose, Schiano has to go, and I don't think I was the only one thinking that. I think that
me too.
In terms of the defense, 24 points isn't great for Purdue to put up against us, because they got shut out against Northwestern and they only put up 20 against Minnesota. But they did put up 27 against Illinois, and they put up 30 against Notre Dame. They put up 17 against USC. So they've had some all right performances against some really good defenses. And Illinois, a team we're facing, if Purdue can put up 27 against them, why can't we? And I'm just happy, like I said, the offense is back, because last week, neither side of the football was working. And in order to win a game, you need a side of the football to work. Most of the time, you need both sides. But it was, regardless, I think the best effort defensively probably against a Big Ten team this year. And that's not a high standard because we've allowed, 31 points or more every week against the Big Ten.
Definitely, I think our best defensive performance of the year against an offense that's pretty good. No doubt about that. When you talk about, Coach Shiano, you think was coaching for his job this week. I agree with you. This victory, I do not think saves his job. I think this continues what's going to be very close scrutiny of him because Kelly Zinn and President Tank come from LSU. I can't see Kelly Zinn walking away from that game saying this is the standard. And when Shiano's jumping around like he won the Super Bowl, don't get me wrong, I love him.
I get it. Yeah.
It's a problem. And I think that I think at the end of the day, Rutgers needs to go in a new direction if they're going to break through.
Yeah, I agree. And it's not just us that say this. Obviously, the fan base has been saying this. And I've had players DM me agreeing, but I'm not going to say who, obviously, confidentiality purposes. But it's not just us saying this. And, it is not a necessarily great look. But when you think about it, if you're Shiano and you see your team go 0-4 in the Big Ten, one of the worst losses in program history, and you bounce back and you at least win a game, and you win it on the last second. Like, it would be one thing if it was marinating all game that we were blowing them out, or, marinating all game that we were losing. You wouldn't expect too much emotion at the end. But the outcome of the game wasn't decided until the last play. So I'm not saying all this to say it's a good look. I'm just saying it's understandable that he was celebrating like that because he nothing's guaranteed because Napier got fired after a win against a good Mississippi State team. But you would think that he extended his job security. I agree that it's not secure. Don't get me wrong. I don't think that this guarantees that he's here this year and the rest, remaining years of his contract and many years to come. But it does extend his security. So I think for him, it's worth celebrating. And guess what? We're going to be seeing some TikTok dances for the first time since early September.
Well, I think that it did extend his job security probably by about 7 to 14 days because you know what this reminds me of? In 1996, when I was a senior at University of Southern California, John Robinson, the former NFL coach, was the coach of USC. They didn't have the year that they were expected to have, but they beat Notre Dame in the last game of the season at the Coliseum. John Robinson was jumping around just like Shiano. And you know why he was? Because he knew he was going. And I get the same feeling that at the end of this year, we're going to see a change. And I think that it's hard for me to say that because I have tremendous respect for Coach Shiano, and I hate to say those things, but I got the sense from how he reacted to that game that there must be serious inner turmoil and pressure on him, and that this win was at least something he could rightfully salvage as a good result. But I do suspect that it's going to come sooner rather than later.
Yeah, I mean, he extended his security by at least a week, barring something unexpected. So we're at two spots right now. The first one was we win this game and then we lose out or have bad losses, and his reign at Rutgers is over, and we look for a new coach, hopefully a guy like James Franklin that Adam and I have been preaching to come to Rutgers for a couple of weeks now. Or we have a good rest of the year, and Shiano keeps his job, has his security, and Rutgers, even though it doesn't make the playoffs, it might not make a bowl game, they still have some sort of optimism moving forward with the current unit, but it's still more of the same possibly moving forward. So I'm not sure which one I'd prefer at this point because you want to have a good year. I would never go into a week rooting for a loss, but long term, I don't know which one is better.
Well, I will say this, you kind of mentioned we're at a kind of crossroads before this game. I kind of feel like the crossroads was we're going to improve or we're going to, go down to a lost season. I feel like we went in the right direction, but hit a huge pothole in doing so. So it's kind of like I would never, out of respect for Coach Shiano, what he's done for this program in his 2 stints, never fire him in the middle of the season. I don't think that that's right and that's fair. But I do think the only way he's going to be able to save his job is if he beats Penn State. And if he does that, I think he gets another year.
Yeah, Penn State, I can see. You don't think that there's a chance that we lose a close game to Penn State, we lose to Illinois and Ohio State, but we beat the brakes off of Maryland and Shiano's back next year?
I think there's a chance that could happen, yes. But I think that my feeling is that Kelly Zinn and Tate are here to win national championship, and they've seen enough. I do think the Oregon game did tremendous damage to their perception of the program. So is there a chance they'll keep him for another year? Yes. But if the year after this does not result in at least 8 wins, then that's going to be the nail in the coffin. So
I think that Washington was the game that kind of started chemistry issues. And we're just assuming that there are any. Neither Adam nor I can say because we're not in that locker room. But just to be clear, if Rutgers does not win again the rest of the year, Shiano is 100% gone?
I will never say he's 100% gone because he has a great track record. He has wonderful relationships at the university. He commands, rightfully so, tremendous respect, and he's a really good coach and a good human being. So I would never say 100% he's gone. It depends on what Rutgers University and the AD sees as the vision for the program. If they're intent on making Rutgers into a playoff team, then I don't think they're going to see Shiano as the guy in the long term. Now, in the short term, could they give him another year? I think they could, but they're going to have to see a substantial improvement next year. Otherwise, I think he will be gone. Now, if they lose 3 out of the next 4 and we wind up going, 5-7, I think there is about a 30 to 40% chance that we're going to see a change. And I'll tell you why. With James Franklin sitting there unemployed,
the new sexy option.
What? Yeah, you got
a new sexy option.
Yeah,
especially with RNIL launching, and we're trying to push for the university to be spending more. At that point, and I love Shiano too. He's the GOAT coach of Rutgers. But would you rather pay Shiano $5 million or James Franklin $8 or $9 million?
I'd rather pay James Franklin $8 or $9 million unless there's improvement, and that's why I mentioned that Penn State game. If we can break through. Forget just the win-loss record. If we can break through in a way that's tangible by saying, hey, this year we finally beat, even though it's not a great Penn State team, we finally beat a traditional power. We see something that we can build on. What I'm seeing this year from this Purdue, especially from this Purdue game, what I'm seeing is that we're really not building. And I suspect that there is something going on in that locker room where the players are split over how they want this program to evolve. And I think when you have an athletic director coming from a perennial power in LSU, they're not going to look at this game in West Lafayette and react positively.
Yeah, well, I can tell you that the class of 2026 and class of 2027 is 100% split on Coach Shiano. But with, we've kind of talked about Shiano. We talked about this game. I think it was at least a step in the right direction. You take a win over a loss in any aspect. So with that being said, I think if we played like this last week, we wouldn't have lost 56-10. We would have maybe lost like how everyone predicted, like in the 40-17 range. So at least it's that,
So I'll make an analogy to where I see Coach Shiano in the program at before we bring on our good friend Austin. When you say you saw there was progress, like there was progress when you decided to go to an NFL football game at the Lincoln Financial Center. That's progress. But the progress was derailed when you ran out of gas. And that's
I don't think we did run out of gas. I think that what this game was, if we're going to talk about my Lincoln Financial experience, it was the firefighters of New Jersey filling up my car and jump-starting it. I think that this may have jump-started something. And, if we make it to a gas station, that's still to be determined. But I think there's a little bit of gas. And, we'll have to see if there's a way to start fuel.
The only problem with that is that the jump start came from Purdue's quarterback.
I would say the jump start came from a defense that had 5 out of 6 stoppages in drives. Finally.
And I have to say, Gabe, all of a sudden, Jay Patel turns into invincible kicker in the fourth quarter. I mean, two right down the middle, so I'll give him credit.
Yeah, I mean, we say that it's a close range kick, but that doesn't change the fact that it's finally high arcing. I mean, those first few weeks, it looked like he was hitting line drives out there and down the middle, and they probably would have been good from 50 to 55.
And remember Blair Walsh. It's never too close.